Welcome to the Sleeping Barber podcast.
I'm just recording.
Is this a test, Mark?
Well, I can do a test if you want.
No,
I don't know.
This is fine. I was trying to be cheeky. Ready?
All right, you ready, V?
Dude, I was born ready. Welcome back to another episode of our Barber's Brief. If you're a new listener, we use this forum to discuss what's caught our eye in the last couple of weeks. We like to highlight our marketing moment and discuss or get into our ad of the week. I'm really pumped up today. We just came off of an election. So we're recording this Tuesday, April 29th. Exciting time here for all Canadians, I suppose. But yeah, Mark, how are you doing this morning? I know you just came back from Mexico, though. So, I mean.
Yeah. My little horse. I had screaming a lot over the weekend. A lot of drinking. A lot of tacos. It was really great. Sunshine.
As one should.
Whales all over the place. It was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've never been to Mexico yet.
Really?
No. I gotta do it.
It's a pretty great place.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. Especially, it's easy to get to all that. Physical availability is pretty close.
That's a good point.
You can get there pretty quickly from here.
I love it.
In the news, V, what's trending? What do you got?
Whoa, but the first story, Google found guilty of illegal ad tech monopoly. Here we go. So in the landmark decision on April 17th, earlier this month, so a couple of weeks ago, the U.S. federal judge ruled that Google illegally monopolized key sectors of the digital advertising market, specifically the publisher, ad server, and ad exchange markets. This verdict stems from a lawsuit filed by the Department of Justice in 17 states, making Google's second major antitrust loss in less than a year. Judge Lonnie Brinkema concluded that Google's dominance in these areas harmed competition, publishers, and consumers. She also highlighted that Google's practices, such as tying the use of one product to another, are unlawful. A hearing is scheduled for May 2nd, literally just in a few days, this Friday, to discuss potential remedies. The Department of Justice may seek structural changes, including divesting parts of Google's ad tech business. This case is part of the broader antitrust crackdown and major tech companies, with implications that could reshape the digital advertising landscape. Now, of course, Google did announce on X, we won half of this case and will appeal the other half. The court found that our advertising tools and our acquisitions, such as DoubleClick, don't harm competition. We disagree with the court's decision regarding publisher tools. Publishers have many options, and they, you know what, it's cut off there. But anyways, basically citing that, that advertisers do have more options than to use Google. So, I mean, not surprised?
It's funny, like I don't really know what it means. You know what I mean? Like, I know that it's a bad thing to be sued, a bad thing to lose a lawsuit. I know that there's generally competition. Like they're a dominant player in the market. It's kind of a two-horse market with Facebook and Meta and Google. Mm-hmm. But I just don't know. Like for me, it feels like a lot of this stuff they'll just end up paying a fine, and then I don't really know what it means to me as an individual running media for different clients and campaigns. You know what I mean? Like I mean, maybe there'll be more players in like the ad setup market to gain access to more inventory. I don't know. Like I just don't know what it means.
Well, it sounds like the DOJ is actually standing by its demand that Google sell the Chrome browser. Like I'll quote, Google must divest the Chrome browser, an important search access point, to provide an opportunity for a new rival to operate significant gateway to search the internet free of Google's monopoly control. So I feel like the push here is to start looking at divesting some of the products so they're not interlinked the way they are. I don't think anyone denies that Google Chrome is by far the more superior browser that's available to consumers. However, it's almost like it comes at a cost to the consumer, even though it's free. Like you're logging into it, everything's being tracked, and of course Google's using that to, to find targeting opportunities for you. But I think that's where the big push is, and that's where it's funny because I think Yahoo, there's some others that are looking to make a bid for it, which is really interesting. Yahoo,
terrible. My wife has a Yahoo email account, and it's got some kind of weird virus where it automatically like converts our browser back to Yahoo every time. It's crazy, but it's awful. It's a terrible search engine. I don't know what, like, it's
I
so
don't know.
bad. It's hard to imagine that they would do better with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, so it's like, in my opinion, it's encouraging to see that DOJ is standing firm on Chrome being divested. You know, it does serve as a key channel for distribution, both central to Google's dominance. And I think consumers may be in a better place because moving forward, if it does get removed from Google. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
But it's to help promote more competition, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if Chrome is the main platform that most people use, and Google is the main operator of all the Google ad network, they've owned the supply and demand side. It's kind of...
Well, if you think about like, again, most advertisers, if you think about how they invest, search is a big one that they'll always invest in. And I'm not here to talk about search strategy and stuff like that, but search still takes up a big chunk of budget.
Well, we'll talk about that later, V. That's a great segue for or teaser. Yeah.
The second thing is going to be like their DV360 platform is continuing to evolve and become more and more robust. So technically, if I were to flip this whole thing on its case, like, you could just invest with Google across YouTube, across DV360. You can use their demand gen, PMax, search. You could just invest in Google and still meet any sort of targeting things that you have versus any other advertiser, right? And I think that's where they are dominant. It is somewhat of a monopoly in some cases. Not saying you can't do that with Meta, not saying you can't do that with Amazon, but the ecosystem around Google that they have in place is far more robust than any other platform.
Yeah, true.
They hold the keys to the two largest search engines. YouTube?
Yeah. They just don't have the logged in experience that Meta does, which, you know what I mean? For identifying reach, let's say.
Yeah.
But I mean, that who knows what's real anymore?
Yeah. What did you find?
So historic amount of money. You talked about the campaign, just what happened in Canada. So for
our election,
the election campaign. So Liberals won at the time we recorded this today. They're still actually counting. So sounds like the Liberals won at least a minority, maybe a majority. Who knows? Anyway, so I was just curious to find out if there's a share of voice story there or not. And so there's a report I found from a couple of weeks ago that at the time, there's a company called EOK Consults that had done an analysis on the ad spend specifically on Meta. Okay. So up until April 15th, the parties had spent $3.6 million collectively. There are spend limits in Canada on advertising, so I don't think the same. It might not be the same on all channels, but there's definitely, at least digital channels, there's limits. And lo and behold, there seems to be at least somewhat of a share of voice story here. So the Liberal Party that won actually had spent 51% of that 3.6 million. Conservatives were 45%, and then 4% was divided by the three other parties, so the Bloc, NDP, and Green. So just kind of interesting looking at that. I would love to be able to find, I'm sure there's going to be more reports coming up soon.
I'm sure,
post-election analysis, all that kind of stuff to see what was going on there. But it seems to be there's some kind of support for a share of voice story, or excess share of voice anyway, and what happened with the election. I think there's a whole bunch of things around also the relevance. I was trying to think about the Kantar meaningful difference framework.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I do think there's some messaging that actually help amplify.
That's a good point.
Well, for sure. I mean, all the pundits are talking about that right now, but at least in terms of spend threshold, that excess share of voice seems to hold.
And I know this is just a snapshot into Meta from a spend perspective, but I got to say, like, our campaign spends are nothing close to what the United States gets.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
And I know this one was this was a quick election too.
Election. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, you can't put it on
30 days or something for the campaign. Yeah. From the time they called it to the time that everyone was voting.
I know. I mean, call that efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I've never actually thought about that. Well, applying some of core principles to something like an election, and look at things through share of voice, or even talking about the meaningful difference framework, and how does that apply in something like
Yeah.
this? But there's, of course, I think you're right. There's something there for sure.
Yeah. What else you got, V?
So, trying to keep in theme. So, talking about earlier how Google was found guilty of competition. I did want to bring a story in that kind of talks about like how there's other companies that are still forging ahead in this new state, which I believe actually will cause more of a disruption than just the divesting of, say, something like Google Chrome. So ChatGPT enhances user experience with shopping, WhatsApp integration, and improved citations. So obviously ChatGPT is evolving their product, evolving their platforms. I think you and I have talked about how that in of itself will likely disrupt search more than anything. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of the changes. So the first being an integrated shopping experience. So ChatGPT now offers a built-in shopping feature that allows users to search for products, compare options, and make purchases directly within the chat interface. The AI also provides product suggestions based on the current conversation and past interactions, displaying details such as images, prices, and reviews. So think about this in the same way like the original shopping ads or PLA ads that you and I would have seen them in, circa 2014, 2015. So it's kind of taking that to that next level. The second one was WhatsApp search functionality. So expanding its accessibility, ChatGPT now can be used via WhatsApp by messaging, and the number is like 1-800-ChatGPT if you want to add the contact. This feature enables users to access real-time information and interact with ChatGPT even when away from their computers, providing a more convenient on-the-go solution. So what's fascinating to me here is like, not only are these LLMs now just become table stakes, they're being integrated in a lot of the day-to-day apps that we use. So even if you don't use ChatGPT and use their own platform, now you can access it through things like WhatsApp. So making it easier for people to, consume information or get the information they're looking for. And the final thing is enhancing source citations. Now, to improve transparency and trustworthiness, because I think the one thing we all hate about these LLMs is like the hallucinations, or they make up
like where
fake
is that
cases.
coming from? Yeah.
It's like, oh no, this is just to make a point. It's not factual. It's like, well, why would you even put it there?
Yeah.
So anyways, so to help improve that transparent trustworthiness, ChatGPT has upgraded its citation system. Users will now see clear references and sources, links accompanying to AI's responses, facilitating an easier verification of information and promoting informed decision making.
The integrated shopping experience one, is super interesting for a whole bunch of reasons to me. But one thing that, as you're reading that, the word that came to my mind was satisficing. So the idea that people don't pick the best product; they pick the one that's good enough based on the time, money, energy, resources they want to spend trying to find the thing. And so I can't help but think that this is going to be like have a massive implication on like consumer satisficing, just because they're going to just follow whatever the GPT says.
That's a good point. And maybe that's what they monetize as well.
Yeah, the convenience.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what your shopping habits are like on Amazon, for instance, but I will always make sure that I'm prioritizing, 2-day shipping, or like having it within the earliest possible, right?
Yeah.
Which is usually already swaying a decision.
Yeah. Usually for me, if I'm buying something on Amazon, it'll be predominantly based on reviews. And then I just assume that I can get like same day or next day shipping.
It's crazy.
It's interesting. Yeah.
But to get like from a product perspective, to get that, 2-day shipping is like you need to use Amazon's warehouses and things like that to qualify for something like that. So like it's a cost to the manufacturer and to the vendors to be able to be a part of it, because I think consumers do prefer
for sure
the prime shipping. So,
yeah.
Anyways, all right, last story. What'd you find?
Video marketing spend up 20% last year as advertisers shift focus. So this one is from the IAB, or it's from Marketing Week, but a report from IAB UK. I also did look up. I found some results on eMarketer in terms of spend in Canada, and so directionally these are similar kinds of results. So the UK's digital ad market grew 13% last year to 35 billion British pounds. 47% was on search. So that hasn't really changed. Search is still the dominant tool, but online video is apparently the fastest growing. at 22% year over year. Display is 13% spend. Retail media also growing quickly, but only at 4%. And then classified, digital out of home, other make up the difference. So there's a whole just shift, I think, between, I mean, it's almost not really that much different to what we saw with TV from years ago. Like TV, became the dominant medium, I think largely because video is such a great, powerful tool to be able to do lots of different things. There's just more and more out inventory now on digital platforms, and the connectivity that people have makes it easier to deliver the video. And so, video is becoming this ever increasing asset as far as like how to create and craft messages, stories, all that kind of stuff that, is cheaper and cheaper to produce and also cheaper and cheaper to deliver. So a lot of big shifts happening, or continuing shifts and happening towards digital video.
The only thing I'd offer on this as well is we're also getting pushed there by the companies, right? So
Totally.
you think about the Amazons, the Googles, like they have, joint business plans that are rooted in video and how you spend on the video side. So
this is like your global dominance story.
So I think as advertisers, if you look at all the literature that comes out of the publishing side, it'll always showcase like how video is great to engage with audiences and things like that. And I'm not saying it isn't. Please don't take it that way. But we're getting pushed in that direction. Display is becoming less and less of a tactic that a lot of people leverage. I'm not saying like they still don't or it doesn't.
Yeah.
But people are more investing on the video side, which now creates another issue, which is like it's the sea of sameness that's just taking that, because like you can leverage their AI tools and things like that. They have their own automated voices that you can use, AI voices or voiceovers, etc. So while it's supposed to help from an advertising perspective, get content out there as quickly as possible, you're prioritizing shorts, you're prioritizing like these really short pre-rolls. The reality is like, are we becoming oversaturated now with video? And it's not the same thing where it was like for like TV when you had a 30-second spot. There's a lot of pride and joy that went into that spot, a lot of work, where like these things now are just like turnkey, just go. It's more about volume.
Throw it away.
Yeah. It's more volume than it is like quality. So
yeah, it's a fair point. It's a really good point. Yeah, and it's interesting because you're right. Like there is a lot of campaign material around how strong video is and how important it is. But same thing as like when we shifted to digital, like same kinds of, we were part of that. Yeah.
We were, and like it's, I don't know how long is it going to be the next 3-4 years where it's like, well, it's not just about video anymore. It's we need to make sure we're taking an omni-channel approach, and display is just as important.
Yeah.
It can write itself. It's going to write itself here in a few years.
Totally.
Anyways.
All right. We got a marketing moment, V.
Guess who's back with a marketing moment? Professor Dr. Koen Pauwels.
Oh, yeah.
I know you did one from him last week, or sorry, our last episode, but like he's just so good.
I know.
He's so good.
I know.
But this one, again, I created a theme this time around. So it's titled, Should Meta Divest Instagram and WhatsApp?
Okay.
So we're talking about Google and divesting Chrome and potentially some of their other products. Dr. Koen Pauwels does similar analysis on the divesting of potentially Instagram and WhatsApp as well. Because technically, one could argue there's a monopoly that's happening there as well from a messaging perspective, right? So let me try to set the stage here. So it was recently, Meta has been facing major regulatory pressure, both in the EU and in the US. In Europe, it was fined, $200 million for violations of the Digital Markets Act, mainly tied to its controversial pay or consent model for user data. In the US, the FTC is pursuing a bigger case, alleging that Meta monopolized the social networking market through its acquisitions of Instagram back in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014. So now why does this matter? Instagram today generates over half of Meta's US ad revenue, roughly $37 billion. That's a B. That's not a small amount of money. WhatsApp has the most daily users globally, setting the stage for Meta's next revenue wave through business messaging and chatbots. And they've already started. It's in beta right now, like where you can use WhatsApp from an advertising perspective and things like that. So the core of the FTC's argument is market definition. So FTC claims that Meta's dominance, personal social networking services, excluding private messaging, apps like WhatsApp and Signal, Meta counters that it competes much more broadly against TikTok, YouTube, X, Reddit, framing itself as only holding 30% of a much larger social and content market. Now, the outcome will hinge on what the definition what definition the judge will agree with. But I think you can see here that it's already saying, FTC is saying personal social networking. They're saying we're part of the social ecosystem, right? So, and which I can see why Meta's going down that path.
Yeah.
I'm not here to act as a judge right now. This would be a very difficult case to actually come to. But when we think about the precedent that this will set, this is what will send the shockwaves to
it's
the
a huge
industry.
like market segmentation
right
process. Yeah.
Think about this. Some more historical context, which adds a little bit more to the drama. Emails and internet documents reveal that Facebook's original acquisitions were strategically motivated to buy or bury potential competitors. Zuckerberg admitted that Instagram was a threat, and internal discussions revealed a clear intention to neutralize rising rivals. And I think at the time you would have remembered, like,
Snap.
Instagram was the thing.
Yeah.
Right. But then when you think about Snap, they just adopted and created those same functionality within Instagram.
Yeah, because they were trying to, from what I remember, it was something like what they offered Snapchat $6 billion or something like that. And then Snap was like, no, forget it, we're good. And then almost the next day they came out with Reels.
Exactly.
Or Stories, or something like that.
It was Stories. I think it was Stories.
Copycat feature, yeah.
Reels became like the TikTok counter. But yeah, so technically, because of these historical documents now, it's like, well, no, your intent here to purchase was somewhat, removing competition from the ecosystem, from consumers' choice. The bigger marketing takeaway now, even if Meta wins the case, which is likely if the judge rejects the FTC's narrow market definition, the underlying issues won't go away. Regulators are waking up to the fact that convenience and economies of scale, things like advertisers and users enjoy today, come at a cost of real competitive pressure in the long term, which I completely agree with. So like when we're thinking about this in the larger context, not only will this help reshape potentially this, and I would even argue like Google's case too, on how these bigger companies that have been here longer just have almost like that right of passage to go in and acquire because they can just pay for all this stuff, that they may not be allowed to do that anymore. Now, Professor Koen Pauwels argues that instead of just breaking up the Meta isn't the only solution. Like he argues that big tech enabling users to easily transfer friends, profiles, and history across platforms, much like how a phone number portability created more competition in the telecom in the 90s, could be a way to make that for consumers to decide on what they want. Do you want to stay within Meta's ecosystem or WhatsApp's, or just port all your contacts, port all your information to other sources? Could be a way around that. In short, this case is less about today's dominance and more about setting the rules for tomorrow's digital competition. It's a pivotal moment for marketers, platforms, and users alike.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Like, there's a lot riding on these decisions that are going to happen here in the next few months. I think we're already getting a sense of how, let's say, the way Google is being treated here by the DOJ and likely pushing them to divest. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more continuation to that to reduce the monopolistic operation of some of these platforms.
It'd be a weird thing to be in that position, though. Like, I'm thinking about most businesses. You want to crush the competition. Like, that's the whole thing.
That's what you do.
Then, but you get to a point where that can, like, there's a switch where you're not there by the government position. You're not allowed to crush the competition anymore. You have to encourage competition.
Play nice.
Yeah, it's funny. It would be a hard switch to make because, like, leading up until that moment in time for years and years and years, and in some cases decades, you've only been trying to remove competitors, not encourage more of them to steal some of your share. It'd be a hard switch for sure.
It would be a hard switch, and I have to also acknowledge that Google and Meta, the amount of R&D they also invested in to create parity across platforms, making it robust, like ecosystem to advertise in. you can't say that they didn't also. Yes, so Meta went and bought Instagram. However, Meta also invested, I don't know what the numbers would, but it would say millions of dollars in creating an ecosystem around it from an advertising perspective as well. Right. So like, again, Google, they got there on their own, really. Like they created the Chrome browser. So like really it's on them and the ecosystem that they built.
Yeah.
How are you going to fault them for innovating and really kind of driving and being at the precipice of digital advertising? So it's, I don't know, there's is innovation here being somewhat unfairly, I don't know what the right word is,
almost
targeted a little bit, because like they did do this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, similar with telcos too, at least in Canada. I don't know about elsewhere, but I know there are, for the telcos that invest in the infrastructure, like towers and all that kind of stuff, they have to have some percentage, I don't know what it is, but some percentage of those available bandwidth to competitors. So a lot of small startups are able to flourish in that kind of ecosystem and invest in it. So they get money, I'm sure, from some of those small startups. But it's still, to me, like a strange thing if you're inside the company where everybody's just been hyper focused on doing more than the competition, beating the competition, stealing share, and then all of a sudden you have to switch your gears and go, it'd be a weird one for sure.
It would be a weird one. All right. Ad of the week. You found our ad of the week this week.
I did.
This one's good.
We're going to talk about peeing our pants.
Let's pee our pants.
So this is from Goodnights. So Kimberly Clark, Goodnights, which is they're like, underwear for bedwetting kids, like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kind of kids. Mm-hmm. So they partnered with Gut Creative and launched Mission Dry, a new activation to launch Never Stop Dreaming platform. We've got the video here. We'll play the video, or we'll insert the video heavy for people to watch if they want, rather than playing it now.
Yeah. I in the video, I always do a little overlay, but it will obviously provide the link too. Yeah,
and so the insight is that there was astronauts pee their pants or pee their spacesuits. They have all kinds of technology and stuff in those spacesuits, but and so the idea was using these heroes of astronauts to destigmatize bedwetting. And so it piggybacks off a couple of things. They've got April 8th, World Astronomy Day, and May 5th, which is World Astronaut Day. There's a live activation experience that was included in this where kids can speak with 2 astronauts. And they got to ask them questions, and that was part of the campaign. It was really cool, yeah. And then one of the kids, obviously, I don't know if it's set up or not, but I'm sure it is, asked about where they go to the bathroom, and they're like, we be in our suits. And so it's kind of a cool thing. You can see how excited the kids are meeting them. Yeah. So there's 2 commercials that were part of this campaign: social content, educational content. There's commemorative swag, like you can get a patch that looks like an astronaut patch. And so it was really cool. I mean, there's 1 in 6 kids have some kind of experience with this, and so it's intended to try and make kids feel a little bit less self-conscious about it and give them a little bit more confidence. And then there's a call to action for any of the caregivers that want to learn more. There's a website there. So anyway, that was just kind of a cool little story.
I thought it was awesome. Yeah. It was really well done. And I think you could tell, like, when you watch a commercial, you can tell how the kids were just like super engaged. Like they were like, it's like they were talking to their heroes, Yeah. So like it was,
Even one of them was like, "Do you guys have pizza in space?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we. And so like it's just kind of fun that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was really well done. Great job, Goodnight. Great job. All right, coming up next week.
Coming up next week?
Well, it's Peter Paul and Matt Davis from Better Briefs. Guess what we talked about, Mark?
Better Briefs.
Better Briefs. And honestly, we're being a little bit goofy here, but honestly, it was such a great conversation when we think about probably the most important artifact that we have as marketers is the brief writing process. Yeah. And how many of us probably don't give it the attention that it deserves. Yeah. And so we talk about that, things that came out of the report that they did, but also ways that we can, create
the Better Ideas Project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That was the second. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so they've got those two massive studies, like making better briefs and then how to get better ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really awesome to get a chance to chat with those guys. So yeah, we'll definitely have that available in 2 weeks, or no, next week. Sorry,
Next week. It's awesome.
All right, V, and with that, we are out.
We're done. We got to go chase profitability now.
Yeah, it's true. It's gonna drip some profitability today, I think.
I think so too.
Rain.
I think so too. Forecast.
But what a great day!
It's gonna be an incredible day.
What a way to start the day. Getting a chance to chat with you. We're back in it.
We're back in it.
After a short break.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. Have yourself a great rest of your day.
You too.
And to listeners, thanks for keeping us in your ears.
Yeah, thank you. Ciao.
Bye.